This year's Nobel Peace Prize went to Maria Corina Machado, a Venezuelan national and a woman who's bravely defied the Maduro dictatorship. I actually think she deserves a video of her own. I mean, that's worth commentary in its own right. And I really don't want Felon 47 to. The whole thing about Trump's narcissism is it guarantees that, good or bad, he's always in the narrative. So I suppose I could be accused of contradicting myself here because I'm talking about him, but it is worth pushing back a little bit because I just find it so indicative of his cult that his followers are already out with their pitchforks because the Nobel Committee hasn't awarded it to Trump. So it's worth talking about that a little bit and why I don't think he deserves it. I really don't. Now, I've never liked Trump. I think he's utterly contemptible. I think he's the worst president in American history. But if he had genuinely got peace somewhere and that was a lasting peace and it wasn't based on, thousands of civilian dead, then I would say, okay, I don't like the guy, but he deserves it. But that criteria just hasn't been met. So one of the lies the Trump lie machine keeps pushing out is he has ended 8 wars. I've already addressed why that claim is false. Um, a lot of those conflicts that have been cited, it's very dubious to what extent Trump had a role. For example, the flare up between India and Pakistan. Pakistan claimed that Trump played a big part, India didn't. So, how can you claim to have got peace when one of the warring parties doesn't even recognise that you're a peace broker? In the case of Armenia and Azerbaijan, yes, there was American diplomatic efforts. Trump couldn't even get the names of the countries right. That's how dedicated he is. Um, in the case of Cambodia and Thailand, the border clash there, yes, again, there was some diplomatic efforts, but that's the sort of situation that could well flare up again. It's not necessarily a permanent peace. It's restive at the moment. Um, Russia and Ukraine, very far from over. Trump has pandered to Putin for years. He's only toughened his rhetoric because Putin's personally let him down. That conflict, which is the deadliest in the world at the moment, or certainly in the top three deadliest, it far from over. Um, the conflict between Egypt and Ethiopia hasn't even happened. That's a diplomatic dispute. Now, of course, it could escalate. Let's hope it doesn't. But that's a conflict that isn't even a conflict. It's a diplomatic dispute over a dam. There's actually been no armed violence so far of any significant level, if any. So how he can include that, I don't know. But let's dismiss all of that and say, okay, what about Gaza? Well, in the case of Gaza, and this is why I mentioned not a peace that is on top of thousands of civilian dead. The fact of the matter is, yes, there has been big American diplomatic efforts there. Yes, Trump has pressured Netanyahu eventually, but only on top of funding Netanyahu for months. Without American support, Israel couldn't have done what it's done in Gaza. That's a fact. So it's a pretty sick, perverse logic to say that Israel's biggest arms funder has got the peace now after months and months, hell years of funding Israel. I suppose to be completely fair, months. I mean, frankly, if Biden had been awarded for the prize, I'd have a problem with that because Biden also supported Israel. So, I mean, this is the reality. American weapons have killed children in Gaza. So it's kind of sick to hear Trump now swoop in and say, "Oh, I got peace in Gaza." Well, Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt also played a role in those negotiations. Of course, the peace should be welcomed if it lasts, but I just think it would be very callous and dismissive of thousands of Palestinian dead to award it to the man that is partly responsible for the deaths. Not solely, that is also down to Netanyahu and yes, Hamas, but I just think it would be pretty sick to give Trump the prize in those circumstances. And another key thing to this is, to the best of my knowledge, there has never been a Nobel laureate that has personally lobbied for it to the extent that Trump has. Now, if If I'm wrong about that, I'll stand corrected. If someone can cite a Nobel laureate, someone who's actually won, that has personally lobbied to the extent that Trump has, then, I'll stand corrected. But I just find that utterly vulgar and indicative of his sheer narcissism. But there's other reasons why he shouldn't win. I mean, that would be, just pandering to a narcissist. I think that would be wrong. And the Nobel Committee would be strongly criticised if they did give it to Trump. But there's other things. Trump has threatened war against Venezuela. Trump actually renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War. Trump pardoned violent insurrectionists. Is this someone who is really a peacemaker? The lie factory coming out from Trump's administration, from Truth Social and so on, is so deeply entrenched in the minds of his cult followers and the minds of his sycophants that they don't care about facts. They don't care about the world outside their own bubble. You can point it out to them as much as you want, but they'll just call you a leftist, a communist, all the rest of it. Trump absolutely does not deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. The lies that he's ended 8 wars are just that, lies. American weapons have killed children in Palestine. This is not someone who deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. He just doesn't. If the peace in Gaza lasts, I welcome that. I will even be charitable enough to say there have been some American diplomatic efforts, but only on top of months of funding Israel's bombing campaign. I mean, that's just a contradiction. How can you say that Trump is a peacemaker when for months he has been fueling the war? He has, by definition. I think the only reason there's been a big diplomatic push recently is because of Trump's narcissism. He wants the prize. The man is absolutely, he utterly loves himself. The fact that he has to say, I'm not being braggadocious, shows that he is. But there's just a sickness in the Trump followers' mindset. They just cannot grasp why the rest of the world doesn't worship their dear leader the way they do. They don't get it. Half of these people, when they say he's ended 8 wars, I doubt they could find those countries on a map. I mean, it's sick. It really is. Even if Trump had ended 8 wars, and you might think, okay, well, that's a pretty big claim to get the Nobel Peace Prize. The Epstein thing is far from cleared. His pardoning of violent criminals, his corruption, his contempt for democracy, all of those things would overshadow it. Now, I'm not going to say the Nobel Committee has always got it right. Because people might say, oh, Nathan, the Nobel Committee has given it to X, Y, and Z. I don't think Obama should have gotten it, actually. As much as I think Obama was a far superior president to Trump, that was at the start of his presidency, and they gave it for hope. Just this vague concept of hope. I don't think that was enough of a reason, and I think historically that was a mistake. But look at the difference. Obama at least was humble about it. Obama at least, he personally said, as I recall, he didn't think he deserved it. That was coming from Obama himself. Jimmy Carter got it because he genuinely got peace between Israel and Egypt under the Camp David Accords. In 1995, Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin shared it over the Oslo Accords. I don't think Bill Clinton got it for that. I think it was shared between Rabin and Arafat. Maybe Bill Clinton should have got it for his efforts. I'll need to double check that. I don't think Clinton got it for that. I just think the sheer narcissism and the sheer delusions of Trumpland, I think the Nobel Committee has made the right choice. Of course, they're going to be bombarded with abuse from Trump's followers and his Joseph Goebbels in chief. What's her name? His press spokeswoman. Really should have her name at hand. That's how little I respect her, quite frankly. Let's see, I should get this out. The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. She's actually lobbying online that her boss, big block capitals, her boss should get it. No, Caroline Leavitt / Joseph Goebbels, he doesn't deserve it. He's a contemptible narcissist, a criminal. He has waged tariff wars across the rest of the world. This is not someone who deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. no matter how much you and the other sycophants of your administration think he does. I really do commend the Nobel Committee for not going down this path. If they had awarded it to Trump, it would have just looked like pandering to a bully. I mean, how utterly vulgar that he lobbied for it himself. Who does that? What sort of person does that? There's people who really have made diplomatic efforts in this world without self-interest. I think of the great Finnish statesman Martti Ahtisaari, for one, and there's many others. Donald Trump, everything Trump does is self-serving. The man is just contemptible. And, you know, unless you're taken in by the lies of Lies Central, Truth Social, then nothing else to add, really. But no, for all those reasons, I don't think Donald Trump deserves it. If he didn't have all those skeletons regarding Epstein, regarding his own criminality and all the rest of it, if he had genuinely secured peace that wasn't self-serving, then I'd say, okay, give it to Donald Trump. But he does not deserve it. If you want to cite Gaza, how is it that an American president who has been arming Israel for months, which means directly killing Palestinian civilians, how is it that he deserves that just because in the last few weeks there's been diplomatic efforts? Probably we can pin it from when Israel targeted Qatar, which is an American ally. Trump was probably furious about that. So I don't doubt that there has been diplomatic efforts, but I would maintain that it's solely because Trump feels personally let down by Netanyahu. Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about dead Palestinians. He just doesn't care. Like many Americans, he doesn't care. I should say many Americans on the right. There is this callous disregard for Palestinian lives, because they're worthless in their minds than Israeli civilians. I mean, if you want to go in as an honest broker, you would be genuinely neutral. The United States of America is far less neutral than it's ever been. I think under Jimmy Carter there was a genuine effort there. I have a book by the late Jimmy Carter, Palestine, Peace Not Apartheid, and you could tell that Carter had a really sincere, conscientious effort to understand both sides. You can't say that about Donald Trump. So how can he be a peacemaker when he only cares about one side?